Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm your host, Keenan. Welcome to the June 23rd, 2022 weekly DXdao Community Call, held once again on Twitter Spaces. Welcome to some of our fresh Spaces faces, a fun alliteration for the morning. Just a reminder that we're experimenting with Spaces in anticipation of Operation Decentralization, our upcoming live show all about decentralization with some fun guests. For today, we're going to dive into a discussion on liquid staking solutions and the associated DPEGs that we've been experiencing over the last couple of weeks. Some Treasury expenses info, some more context on Swapr V12, Operation Decentralization, and HackerSoul. You'll have to stick around for a little more context on those, though. If you're looking for a live discussion, you can find a chat for this call in the DXdao Discord channels. Click on the host for this call, DXdao's Twitter profile. You can find the Discord link directly in the profile. All discussion is going to be held in the mothership text channel we use normally for our community calls. If you can't find it, feel free to leave a message somewhere. Someone will point you in the right direction. But yeah, let's kick it off with a little chat about the state of liquid Ethereum staking solutions. If you're here for last week's community call, I spent some time discussing forum posts I put together, which I'll link in the chat here for context. If you give me one moment. If it will let me, there we are. Yeah, but just to set this discussion up, let me paraphrase that post a little bit here. Basically, I went over, how the collapse of UST caused some severe uncertainty in the markets, particularly targeting kind of pegged assets. The fears really started with USDT, if I remember correctly. Eventually, that bled over to, a lot of other peg things like staked ETH from Lido or STETH. I don't know. We didn't really decide on the best way to call STE. If you're familiar with how liquid staking works, the ETH cannot be redeemed until post-merge, meaning that there's, insufficient liquidity and you need to sell your staked ETH at a loss if you wanted to redeem it before the merge or trade it. Not necessarily, obviously, at a loss, but provided there is no liquidity. On top of that, and the declining market conditions we've had in the last couple months, people quickly realized that. And Celsius had a significant position in staked ETH as well, and also, if I'm correct, had considerable debt against their staked ETH position. So considering the rumors at the time that Celsius was going to go insolvent, it made a lot of sense why there was panic. Compounding everything really at the same time. And of course, today the rumors ended up being true. Celsius halting withdrawals, and under legal scrutiny, I'm unaware really currently of their effect on the staked ETH positions, though I haven't necessarily caught up on that. But after spending a bit of time below the peg, other staking solutions started to see similar discounts, which I'm actually less familiar with. I actually caught wind of it from Dave in the forum. But last I checked, I think yesterday evening, SETH2, if I'm correct, from Stakewise, was trading at a comparable discount to staked ETH from Lido, something like 0.96, I believe. And this is relevant because the forum discussion was really around halting funds to be used in Stakewise to purchase instead Lido staked ETH. So I think considering the DPEG no longer being specific to Lido means that we can, scale into many staking solutions using the format that we kind of had in the initial proposal. That is my personal thought, the current status in my eyes, I suppose. Love to invite any other speakers, committee members, anyone interested in sharing thoughts or anything I might have missed on the topic. Anyone can feel free to hop up here on the stage, just request to join.
Yeah, I thought you did a really great job of running it through there, and just kind of two things to add. One, the depegging that's happening across the space is kind of, indicative of the overall market conditions and a run for safe assets. And so in this case, it's kind of like moving upstream from liquid stake ETH to actually Ether. And so, I think that's something that you can see across the space there. And as Keenan said, all of the staked ETHs have seen some depeggings there. And then the second thing, just in terms of Lido, as the DXdao community has been discussing staked ETH over the last several months, there is concerns on Lido's centralization aspects, or having such a dominant liquid staking partner. So in terms of trying to both, I guess as DXdao approaches its staked ETH, it wants to both maximize its financial upside, but also trying to abide by its decentralization ethos. And so we were kind of having to have that discussion a week ago and maybe look at the trade-offs. But because actually all of them have ended up depegging a bit, then yeah, we don't have to make that decision anymore. And so I think, yeah, the current plan is to go through with the stake-wise. There's 1,500 to go, 500 will pass in just a couple of days. But yeah, continue to monitor it in a kind of interesting situation that's developed into this market.
Yeah, I think the discussion has shifted away from whether or not we want to have a lot of staked ETH from Lido to instead how much of our ETH we want to utilize in liquid staking. So I'm not sure maybe the next steps are that in the community, but I think that's probably the new focal point.
Yeah, and just because Dave would say this if he wanted to get up on stage, but one of the, there is the price difference now between Lido and stakewise ETH is like basically the same. It's like 94, kind of something like that. But for stakewise ETH, the interest is paid in a separate token. So it's actually a better risk. It's a better reward right now to go with staked ETH over Lido, just from a financial perspective, not even accounting for the decentralization aspect.
I see he's dropped a peace
It was
sign
such a
here.
cool thing. I didn't know you could do that.
I think the final and biggest question is it Lido or Lido?
I'm still struggling that the fact that we have like people, I don't judge, but like some people say ether and some people say ether. And like that seems pretty like foundational, right? There's like ETH and F. And I'm kind of like surprised that those camps both exist in the Ethereum community, and it has not led to like a broader, I don't know, conflict or something. There's like the GIF or GIF discussion.
Yeah, I was gonna say the GIF GIF one is a relationship ruiner, so maybe don't want to go there. Cool. Anyone else here on the stage or in the audience want to type up on liquid staking? Any thoughts? Anything that might have been missed? Feel free to hop up. Otherwise, we can move along.
Well, maybe I could just tune in with a fun fact. In the UK, a Lido is a bathing pool, normally artificially created, resembles a lake where people bathe in the summer. So, given that in crypto, it's a liquid staking pool, so maybe we could call it Lido. But I don't think Lido would be erroneous either. So yeah.
I'm team Lido. But anyways, let's move along here. Next up on the agenda, just some regular DXdao recaps. Want to hop into Swapr and DXgov. I think we have Zet. We do have Zet here. Zet, are you willing to give a little update on Swapr for us today?
Yeah, for sure. So not much have changed since last week. We did have a release, which means the Swapr squad packaged Swapr Beta V13, put it up on GitHub, and we got a community proposal for deploying it, and it should be live now. So you could all go to swapr.eth.limo to see it. And includes a couple of nice features. We introduced echo bridging, which is super awesome. Basically, you put in whatever you want to bridge, and we'll check where is the best route for you to bridge that asset. Right now, there's not a lot of choices, but we keep on adding more routes. We have another version coming up soon that will include cow protocol integration. I'm super excited for it. I haven't seen anyone else integrate CowSwap unofficially, at least. I think Balancer has CowSwap integrated, but yeah, will be the first integration. I would say. I'm super excited for it. We are estimating to be done really soon. I'm not saying any dates. Other than that, we're doing a lot of planning for the future. We're doing some resource planning, feature planning. We're looking into which networks to go on next. So if you guys have ideas on which networks we should go on next, please propose that. So Swapr will have two ways to go onto network. One way is to deploy our own contracts, where we'll have our own liquidity, we'll have the do-it-yourself farming and everything else. But we also have another way to go onto another network, which is just deploying. Sorry, it's not even deploying anything. We'll have our Echo router and Echo bridge there live. So one example is Polygon. Swapr doesn't exist on Polygon, but our Echo bridge and Echo router is on Polygon. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We could explore networks much faster like this. And yeah, we're looking potential Echo router networks that we will go on to next. That's all. Any questions?
I just want to comment that Eco Router aggregating aggregators is a very interesting thing, getting the absolute best quotes. I mean, us deploying those on chains that Swapr isn't necessarily Swapr contracts aren't on, I think is super interesting. And I've been using Swapr alongside CowSwap a lot these last couple of months. So very excited personally for that.
Yeah, super excited too.
Same here.
I think
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited. I think we're downplaying this. This is something huge. Like I've been using the Eco router, and sometimes with the multi-hop on, it routes me through some very interesting pools, and I'm like, well, that other exchange has a bigger pool. Why is it routing me to this one? And when I realize it's allowing me to ARB, like it automatically creates the best strategy to hop from pool to pool so that you can ARB the price difference. And several times I've made a profit by just, because otherwise, what would you need to do if you're a noob user? You'd need to go through exchange after exchange to manually check the price everywhere before you make up your mind. Or if you don't want to bother with all those steps, you just pick one, and it wouldn't necessarily be the most convenient or efficient one, and you likely pay extra. You can just go to Swapr and all of your problems are removed. And also, people have been spreading memes around crypto Twitter lately with like, what is Web3? Oh, or what is DeFi? Oh, it's just Web2 is just CeFi with extra steps. Bullshit. Well, actually, Swapr is a great example of composability and why Web3 and DeFi matters. Like, think about it, for example. Swapr allows you to eco out your trades through CowSwap, where you get MEV protection. MEV is plaguing the ecosystem, and you have this amazing solution that people should wake up to and start using more. And now they have access to it through pretty much the one and only decentralized front end in the ecosystem, which is Swapr, managed by, owned, governed, and developed by DXdao, a truly decentralized community. And not only that, but CowSwap itself taps into liquidity pools of Swapr. So it's this amazing example of composability that you would never in a million years have in centralized finance.
Yeah, super, super exciting stuff. Thank you, Nathan. Next up here on the agenda, we have Ross interested in a little bit of an update from the DXgov side of things.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a bit difficult to follow up from Swapr having a huge release. A lot of groundbreaking stuff, maybe not so much for people to go and play around with right now, but we just got the audit reports back, I think at the start of last week. And so we're just kind of working through those. We've split up all the tasks and working on getting those back as soon as possible to Sigma Prime, just for them to go through, make sure that we fixed everything, and then it'll be ready for a release, hopefully, for Swapr Guild going live. We don't have a timeline yet because there's a few kind of reliant on both getting things fixed from the development side as well as the report coming back to us. But yeah, hopefully soon we'll have a lot to show everyone.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ross, for stepping up here. Moving on to our next topic, hitting a forum post in the DAO Talk forum titled Offloading RAI from the Treasury. I think we have Dave here, who was the post author. Was curious if you could run through some context, what the post is, and why we want to take those actions. So I'm just trying to invite you up here.
Get up here, Dave.
He's scared of the stage.
I believe his phone does not have the capabilities, or he has to update the app or something.
Yeah, it's that Razer phone. They're really like thin and slick, and the battery lasts forever.
And yeah, if your phone doesn't work for Twitter Spaces, you should get a new phone. That means your phone's too old.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know.
Loud and
Sky, I hear his voice loud and clear.
Wonderful. My phone is just as up to date as it needs to be. Yeah, so the forum post is mostly concerning the RAI we currently hold in our treasury, which is actually the largest stablecoin we kind of hold if you look at it from a USD perspective. And the way RAI works, it has a redemption rate, which kind of like adjusts the internal price of RAI over time. And that rate is currently at minus 18%. I'm looking up the website, but I can't find it right now. And so it just makes sense for DXdao to currently probably offload some of its RAI. We're looking to offload roughly 700K in the forum post out of like the 900 and something we own. RAI trades at about $3. And actually, the internal redemption price, off the top of my head, I believe is like $2.98, while it still trades on the market at roughly like 3.04. And yeah, given the large negative redemption rate, I think it just makes sense for DXdao to kind of like, exit some of that position. 18% is obviously a lot over a year. And this rate is dynamic, so it does change based on a number of variables, which I believe include ETH collateral in the system, how much RAI is issued, and some other factors. But as you know, in the current circumstances, as the market has been going down, I believe the rate has been negative for the past couple of weeks, if not longer. And I just think right now for the DXdao, it does make sense to kind of offload some of that, move it into some of the stable coins we do already hold, like USDC, DAI, some LUSD. And I think this is just how RAI works. It's like the internal mechanism, and it's working as it's supposed to. So I definitely think we could reacquire some RAI at a certain point. Just a brief note also is that we did acquire this RAI when ETH was like above 4K. So even though it might be a cent or two below what we purchased it at, it did kind of we did kind of drive a good bargain, I would say. And we should keep on monitoring the RAI situation and perhaps reacquire some in the future, even at like a lower single-digit redemption rate. I think just by the decentralization it brings, it could still make sense to hold that. And of course, if the redemption rate is positive, it's a no-brainer anyway. But the market should kind of like drive that out in a normal state. And yeah, I think that's pretty much sums it up from my side. I'm not sure if there's any questions or feedback, or Chris is also a great Reflexer finance aficionado, so maybe he has some words to share as well.
No, I was just looking at the site. There's stats now, and it's negative 21.5% right now. So that's kind of fluctuated around that negative 20% number the last week or two here.
Where is the OMG emoji in Twitter?
The what? The
shocked emoji.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to do that in your little. I don't know how you did that there. I guess you can do just that clap. I'm not going to clap for myself, but I can press and hold for more skin tones. Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything kind of else. I'd be curious to know if anyone has any questions. I think Dave kind of gave you overview. I mean, the key takeaway is that the RAI Reflexor system is targeting a negative 20% yield for RAI right now. So like a rational actor who's holding RAI, would sell and kind of get out of that negative yield. And I think that's, makes best sense for DXdao. But as Dave said, like there is a very strong decentralization component to the DXdao RAI exposure, right? Because I think USDC and DAI have their own complications. And so I do think there's like some number that it would be worth DXdao like having maybe even some negative yielding of RAI just because of the decentralization element. And again, just interesting that this is happening in light of the recent market volatility and also, similar to the Peg ETH, the Stakewise and the Lido situation, how we're kind of balancing a financial reality or financial move with the decentralization of ethos of DXdao. So something that probably will continue need to balance in the future.
Yeah, it's truly amazing how, patience is a virtue. And what is that other saying? The first will become last and the last will become first. You see, we've had this conservative strategy all along, and somehow we ended up ahead of the curve with everything we've done. Look at other organizations, I'm not going to name them, but they've been chasing leverage and trying to one up everyone. And what happened with them, right? And here we are. And in the end, I'll also say, I love the transparency. Here we are talking about it, being all public about it. It's on a public forum. It's not behind closed doors. It's not using, just a multi-sig without informing anyone about it. It's being discussed publicly. It will be an on-chain proposal to approve it, the signal proposal, and only then the members of the DAO would be allowed to do whatever is supposed to be done with the funds. So I think we're very exemplary as an organization, and others should pay attention for the next bull run.
Yeah, awesome. Great thoughts, everyone here. While we have you, Mr. Chris, let's chat DXdao expenses update for June of 2022. Fantastic form thread from you, running through all expenses and kind of paving the way to kind of more budget tightness over the next couple of months. So would love some context there.
Sorry, just for me a second to get the mic on. And I guess people maybe can see the link somewhere in the Discord chat. We can share it there. But yeah, this is an update kind of looking at DXdao expenses, really focused on kind of the first 6 months of this year. I think there were a lot of changes that DXdao was kind of undergoing and kind of growing some product teams and there. And so I think it provides an overview of where money has been spent, where things have been invested. And I think that's the type of kind of foundation that can be used for squads to start to create their own budget. I think to get a little philosophical for a second, I think when think of what's good for DAOs and how DAOs can evolve, I think it's really important to have this very open, organic period of discovery where there are not very many kind of restrictions, or there are not really many clear ideas of where things are going. And then in that initial organic phase, some things start to emerge that are good or are successful. And then you end up building around those. You kind of set some parameters around those things that arose organically. And I think that's kind of what we're doing here with the expenses and budget, right? We've been tracking these for, really, I think kind of going on a year and a half, but in terms of how it informs the actual day-to-day investment decisions, there hasn't been much of a forward-looking budget component. Partly because this was a kind of rapid growth phase for DXdao, and it had funding, and it was trying to go out and find opportunities and be able to invest in people in different products and see what worked. But I think now we have the chance to look at this data. Look at this kind of the expenses that we've had in the past and use that to help us better inform how we will like look at things going forward. So just some couple like high level numbers in terms of what DXdao expenses are. So over the last 6 months, about $265,000 average monthly expenditures. Depending on, we have certain expenses that may come in over the coming weeks and months here. So that is probably closer to maybe like $280,000 a month. And then based on some already, some product teams that have already started building out different contributors who may increase their who may move on from a trial period or who may increase their time allotment. I think like a $300,000 monthly burn rate is a safe estimate right now, kind of to funding DXdao's current operations. And then just talking about those stable coins in the Treasury, that is about 3.7 years of runway just for the stable coins off of that amount. In terms of the breakdown expenses, just some high level numbers here. Swapr is about 29% of DXdao's expenses. The DXgov product team is 24%, DXvoice 19%, governance 11%, contributor X 7%, and then DXbiz 6%. And then there's a couple others that are kind of are lower than that. And then looking at a couple of the bigger squads, so Swapr and DXgov and DXvoice are the three largest squads. And so diving into those and looking at a breakdown of their expenses, you can see for Swapr, they have both a lot of contributors, and there's a big expense in terms of development shop because the SpaceInch team supports Swapr. So you can see about 45% of their expenses are to contributors, and then 45% are also to developers or to the SpaceInch folks. With DXgov, DXgov also has a heavy reliance on contributors, right? That's where most of the compensation goes. And DXgov does not use a outside development shop, but it does rely heavily on audits. So over the last 6 months, around 48% of DXgov's expenses were to audits. Most of that was in the $160,000 audit through Sigma Prime, which Ross was just mentioning earlier that they were working through. So that's a huge component there. And so you can see kind of how that plays. Both the Swapr team and the DXgov team have, almost half from contributors and then half from kind of like a more software shop or a third party that's providing a specific service. And then DXvoice is a little bit more, as I say, lumpy because it doesn't have as many consistent.
Chris,
yeah.
Can I just give a small note in there also?
Yeah.
We do have a couple of people that works with QA full time, and DXgov does use this small sub squad to do QA actually. So and the plan is actually to create a squad just for QA that will split away from Swapr, that will support all the dApps inside of DXdao. So DXgov does use contractors too, for now at least when it comes to QA.
Yeah, and I think that QA discussion is like a really, I guess when we look at these things in terms of expenses and we're talking about budget, it actually like makes us think like, oh, that's right, like what things are like actually cross product, what things should be separated out. So hopefully, through this exercise, and that was like a really good feedback in terms of that, because all of these categories are just, really like judgments from looking at proposals and what people work on and how to split expenses. But when we aggregate it all up, it does give a picture of where things are being invested and where things are prioritized. But it means it's very important to make sure that we put some thought into how we're actually labeling and categorizing these things into the different groups there. Yeah, and then just the last kind of squad to maybe think a little about, as I say, DXvoice is a little bit more lumpy, and that's primarily because a lot of its expenses come from some sponsorships. So there were sponsorships for ETH Denver, I think around 20,000. There was a $12,000 one for Amsterdam, the global governance gathering. But then the largest sponsorship for DXvoice was the $100,000 sponsorship for the Copenhagen Flames there. And so they had actually 32% of its expenses from sponsors. And then there's also a lot of different one-off expenses that DXvoice has there. And so, yeah, there's a lot more in the post to kind of look at, and there's an Excel if you want to like dive in a little bit more. I think there's some interesting things in looking at like events and how much these cost to send contributors to things too. And then, yeah, just the kind of like next steps is a lot of the squads are going through now and coming up with looking at their next 6 months and trying to project, okay, what are the needs we have? What are the types of services or products that like would be great to have? And I hope that, contributors or squad leads take it as an opportunity to be like, think of things that would cost money but would have some type of big value like driver. There's lots of different online, products and dev tools that people use that DXdao could be funding. And I think if we have like kind of some information about it and carving that out in the budget, it makes it a little bit more possible for some of those tools that could improve productivity. So yeah, that's the kind of goal going forward, is to try to come up with a 6-month budget for each of the squad that will try to post and work from starting on August 1st. Now, this does not really affect anything in terms of how like DXdao operates in terms of like funds moving or proposals. Everything will kind of still function the same way in terms of people submitting proposals and getting paid, but just having like a forward-looking budget will allow us to be a little bit more accountable to what we're saying, and allow us to reflect back on and say, okay, well, 6 months we thought we were going to spend on things on this, and we ended up not spending those things on that. So it'll give us that perspective. And then I also do think long-term, moving to this type of discussion, community discussion about where resources are allocated, that's kind of how you can scale to where the squads are like guilds and they're actually distributing the funds themselves. And that's actually like the individual worker proposal, for instance, maybe not be going through all of DXdao governance. It's more of just like this budget approval process. But that's a ways down the road. But hopefully this puts us in that direction.
Yeah, super great, high quality post. Sorry, Scott, did you want to type in here?
No, sorry. Touched the button.
Misinput, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, super high quality and fantastic, necessary post, I think. So it's been great to see that up, and very excited to see going forward some budgets from around DXdao. Coming up next here, I want to quickly chat cow liquidity incentives on Swapr Gnosis chain. We did have a comment in the chat here as well about that. I want to give some context. Basically, we deployed previously on the previous epoch that started on, I believe, June 9th. We deployed a 2-week campaign, and that was to await a proposal to the cow DAO surrounding some initial liquidity incentives, which I will link the snapshot to in the chat here. If I'm correct, I think I had 74% for, right on the nose here, roughly 75. And it was, obviously it reached its quorum. So the cow was sent to, or they did distribute the cow to us. So we received it in our authorized multi-sig that's been handling kind of carrot deployments. So we've deployed another 2-week campaign that started as of 30 minutes ago. And you're wondering why 2 weeks if we received all those funds? And the main reason is that we don't have GNO to facilitate all 12 weeks of those campaigns currently. So we opted to keep things on our regular schedule, our regular cadence, to deploy some longer campaigns here after we've had discussion and received some additional GNO. So the start of the upcoming epochs, which just to confirm, I believe is July 7th at 1500 UTC. That's when we'll kind of have that formal decision. And then we're looking to a longer cadence for specifically the cow pairs. Somewhere between kind of 4 to 10 weeks has been what we've been discussing. Obviously 12 would be nice to keep things on our regular cadence. But if we have to have this 2 weeks, then might be something in between there. But yeah, that's the current status. The 2-week interim campaigns are live now, which I kind of mentioned. So if you haven't yet migrated over, check them out if you haven't checked them out already. Super awesome pair to have here on Gnosis chain. Cool. And then our next topic here is HackerSoul. What it is and when can you learn more. HackerSoul being what we discussed on last week's community call, a DXdao sponsored and organized hackathon. I think Maybe some light context would be great. I don't know, maybe Sky is the right person. I think John was invited. I think he's traveling today. Some light context on what it is would be fantastic, and then I can chat a bit about what kind of the next steps are.
Sure. So HackerSoul is a DXdao originated idea to have a hacker centric, curated, not too large hackathon around the fact of many hackers and people in our space showing up to Bogota around DevCon. And so DXdao has never put on its own hackathon, but the community has a lot of ideas around things that are quite a bit different than like the traditional hackathons that we've been seeing, mainly put on by other parties in the space that are becoming bigger and bigger. And so from a hacker perspective, led by Augusto and other old school hackers in the space, a lot of new ideas for the experience and format and way prizes work and way hacks are presented to the community and how judging works. A lot of new ideas, and this time was chosen as a opportune time to put something like this event on, because DevCon's usually a time when many people from around the world all gather, many people from the space gather in one location for a decent period of time. And so DXdao has identified that weekend prior to DevCon as the period to do this, and is speaking to and looking for a few co-organizers who will want to help participate and help this create this HackerSoul hackathon. And so all those pieces are coming together, including the venue, potential co-organizers, the website, in order to get the awareness out and have a place where hackers can apply and share why they would want to participate. I think that process will be, rather curated. We want to seek the best quality hackers out there that are interested in this version of a hackathon, and so we've been trying to communicate some of the unique differences for this event. Augusto, who is not on Twitter, would probably have some more things to add, because a lot of these new ideas for what hackers want actually come from his experience and his hacking in his mind over the years. But I think everyone should keep an eye out for some announcements, which should be coming shortly, around some of the details and how hackers and people in the space can apply to participate in this event. One thing, we've been speaking about is, our whole space is about decentralization. DXdao has strong decentralization principles at heart. And, we think that many things in the space should be decentralized or have some decentralization to them. And what we've seen is a lot of the hackathons in the space are becoming bigger and more centralized over time. And so this is a bit of an experiment or a statement by DXdao and other aligned organizations who want to try some other version of these types of events. And so it will be a cool experiment. There's a lot of work to go into it. If anyone in the DXdao community is interested in helping and trying to participate and join the HackerSoul squad, that's a temporary squad being formed to oversee this initiative, please reach out on Keybase or on Discord. And if there's things that, if you have experience with these types of events or any ideas for it, would be great to hear. But I'm sure we'll have some forum posts and some announcements coming from Twitter, and then details on how people can start to apply to attend the event. So that's the overall summary.
Yep, well said, and a little bit of context on that kind of next step. I think we can confidently look forward to a formal announcement sometime late next week or early the week following. And at that point, we'll be open to applications. We'll be open to some more context on exactly what we have going on and a little bit more about the event and the co-organizers. So definitely look forward to that. And then obviously coming closer to the event as well. Yeah, thank you very much, Sky. I think that's the gist from my end. Next couple topics here, just some quick call of attention. First of all is obviously Swapr Beta 13, which we had Zet mentioning earlier this call. If you have not yet participated, go take a look. Swapr Beta 13, lots of interesting new things. Very sleek new UI, I must say. Some new little changes around that I've been playing with this morning. So please take a look, Swapr Beta 13, swapr.eth.limo if you have not yet visited Swapr. And then the other thing is Operation Decentralization, which we've been giving some updates for some weeks now. And it's always, next week. I will confidently say now that we have finalized the branding, which I will share a little sneak peek for in the chat here, the mothership text, which you can take a look at. Should be sent now. Yeah, so branding is finalized and kind of the idea boarding, everything is kind of set up. So we are ready to move forward with it and kind of reach out and confirm with our partners. So not confirming a date here quite yet, but things are moving along very, very well. Presumably this time, instead of a regular community call on Twitter Spaces in 2 weeks, we will do instead our first episode of Operation Decentralization. So keep an eye out for that. More context, of course, coming as soon as I am able to give it. Cool, and that does it for the topics I wanted to get to today. Open question to anyone in the audience on the stage. Anything I might have missed, any topics that we want to run over, feel free to pipe in here. I know, Nathan, you love your last minute ideas here.
Yeah, why not? Thank you. What can I say? I would like to create some FOMO around HackerSoul. Like, don't sleep on it. Stay tuned, keep an eye on social media channels because this will be epic. It's the first time, it's David going against Goliath. It's a hackathon for hackers created by hackers, and it's going to be amazing. There's going to be food, drinks, swag. There're going to be 3D printed medals, trophies, NFTs, crypto, and it's all about growing and having fun while hacking. So there are limited spaces. I really want to create this FOMO. And if anyone is listening, they should sign up ASAP.
Can I ask Nathan for a special request?
Yeah, please go.
A little developers chant, please.
Developers. Let me try and reproduce Steve Ballmer. Developers. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
I'm not all sweaty as him, but if I keep going like this for like another 10 minutes, I probably will. Yeah. Maybe we should do this when, in Bogota, when we get there. Yeah.
It's our opening ceremony. We just chant developers for 20 minutes and then everyone goes on their way.
And by the way, I actually, I want to say something about Dave. Look at it. Like, this is a contributor of a decentralized community in control of a treasury at a point worth above $100 million. And like, unlike other communities in the space where you have thousands of people trusting their funds with a multi-sig, we have a completely trustless setup where we have the entire community, whatever is happening with fund management is in the purview of the entire community at any point. So, it doesn't really make sense, but it just, for fun, I'm going to say, someone in control of, if someone doesn't understand the current setup, would say, oh, someone in control of $100 million cannot buy a proper phone to join Twitter Spaces. But yeah, no one is in control of the funds. No one has claim on the funds. It's a true DAO. If anyone still doesn't know how DXdao operates, they should go to dxdocs.eth.limo and learn more, or join our Discord and ask away, and we'll gladly help them with any questions they got. But yeah.
Maybe we should do a crowdfund to buy Dave a new phone.
Yeah.
Any comments or rebuttals from you, Dave, for this ode to Dave at the end of the community call?
I can only thank Nathan and agree with all his underlying points about the awesomeness of decentralization at DXdao. And Sky, you know my address, so feel free to send over $1,000 for my new phone.
That wouldn't be decentralized crowdfunding.
Love Dave accepting the award here at the end of the call. Super fun. Was very, very funny call. Was laughing for half of it. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today on Twitter. If you're not aware, we do weekly rotations. We do Twitter this week, of course, and then next week we'll be in Discord for a community call. And then hopefully the week after that, Operation Decentralization will be back.